How's everybody doing today? Surprise! The astronaut himself has blessed us with a mixtape, I guess. Future surprise released Beastmode 2 as of yesterday, and I've listened to it a couple times in the car, a couple times with some headphones, and we're gonna take a look at it. So let's do this. First track is Wi-Fi Lit, and I am not sure exactly what keeping your Wi-Fi lit means, but I'm assuming it has something to do with having a lot of connections to people, to girls, something of the sort, being able to sell drugs. Future talks about how he's from the streets on this mixtape a little bit, so that might be it. There's some electronic beeping and booping that happens on this track, which kind of goes along with the theme. There's actually a whole lot going on this track, with what sounds like a flute, some slow additive strings, and some highlighting keyboard playing. I can't help but to think that this track is pretty catchy, especially the chorus, but it's nothing too far away from usual Future in terms of flow and delivery, but it's a good starter track for this mixtape. On this next track, there's some really moody piano playing going on with some chimes to complement it. I feel like Future's verses on here are just a little bit too long, and the drums seem really removed from the rest of the production with these hissing hi-hats and hollow snares. It just doesn't mix well on here, I think, and Future's flow is unvaried and kind of boring. Whoa. The first thing I thought of when I heard this song was actually G-Eazy's song, That's a Lot, which has a similar lullaby trap lullaby aesthetic to it, except this time this song is just a little bit less interesting to me. Not saying that That's a Lot was a banger of a song. The drum pattern on here does little to help the track because of how lackluster the melody is, I think, and Future's crooning on the chorus is just funny to me, not even in a bad way, it's just funny. But I do like the reflective lyrics that Future spits on here, especially on the second half of the song on his second verse. Given the next few tracks though, I personally don't think this will be one of the songs that I'll be returning to, personally. This next song, 31 Days, I actually wrote 31 tracks here in my notes. I'm really feeling the spacey, slow-moving production on this song, even though it does have some hard-hitting, fast-paced drums to back it up. There's also this awesome turbulent electronic effect that's going on that gives the song a nice futuristic and dark vibe. Future's just talking about having a lot of girls wherever he goes, which is perfectly fine, but the chorus is so damn long. And he just keeps the same inflection on the end of all these lines on the chorus with these E's, and it just becomes obnoxious. I think it's a little bit better than Rack's Blue, just because the instrumental I find to be a little bit more interesting. This is what I'm talking about. Although the piano on here starts sounding off a little bit tinny, it's really charming with a gracious string section adding some real emotion to this track. And Future actually matches some of this emotion that the production provides him by reflecting a little bit about what made him and how fame has changed him. I think if Future left a little bit more time for the instrumental to breathe on here by leaving out the bridge, it would have been an even better song with the refrain coming right after it. But for a 4-minute song by Future, this is actually pretty solid, and it seems like there's a lot of effort that was put into it. Doh Doh seems like a track that was taken straight out of a video game with these bright and electronic piano notes that create a simple but very effective melody, combined with some ominous but deep piano chords in the background to back them up. There's some other electronic effects on here too that gives this song a very dystopian vibe. And overall, it's pretty good, with young Scooter featuring on this and delivering a pretty topical verse that breaks the monotony of Future's flow, which is a little bit dull on the second part of this song. This song is probably my favorite on this mixtape, with the highlight being the mixing on this song. It surrounds Future a bit more instead of just having him up front and everything else pushed back, so Future's voice sounds more like an instrument, and you don't really have to listen to what he's saying, but you still appreciate it being there. There's some sweet vocal additions on this thing, with a vibrating bass line, and some more pleasant piano. There's also like a very hollow sounding percussion instrument, which I think actually fits this song very nicely. It's very reminiscent and triumphant sounding, especially with Future's lyrics on here, which are a little bit subdued with him still flexing, but it's a little bit more understandable on this specific cut. Some More is a track on this mixtape that I think had a lot of potential, with the desolate and bleak but serene production thanks to the piano on here. The change in the bass line is also welcomed as it dips low and then builds up, and becomes fuller. The song isn't necessarily bad, but I think it just could have used a feature, especially on the chorus. Since Future's flow and delivery is just a little bit similar to the rest of the tracks on here, and it's just uninteresting. But if you're not listening to this from the perspective of the full mixtape, if you're just picking and choosing songs, then this is a song that you'll probably put on a playlist. Finally, on Hate the Real Me, we have a triumphant, in-your-face beat from Zaytoven, wherein Future raps about the problems that he himself and others around him see in him, as well as some thoughts that might be about his ex-wife Sierra. The beat itself sounds like a basketball highlights or promotional track, with Future trying to get as high as he can on the chorus, which I don't think necessarily is drug-wise given what he's talking about here. I think it's more career-wise, but it's probably both. It's a solid closer, and I think that Future matches the energy as best as he can. If you're a fan of Future, then a lot of the songs on the back end of this tape will probably work for you. You'll probably enjoy a lot of these songs. For being a surprise release, there's really not that much to complain about, especially with the copious amounts of work that Future drops on a yearly basis. It's not far from what Future has done in the past, and many of the songs actually sound like other songs in his past discography. There are definitely some songs on here to bump in the whip, and I wasn't really waiting for Future to, or expecting Future to change his sound anytime soon. Although I do think it'd be a good thing to get out of his comfort zone a bit, and he did do that a little bit when it came to the Superfly soundtrack. Some of the production on here is great, with Zaytoven's piano playing being a highlight for a couple of these tracks, and the vibes that he's able to create, but some of the other songs just fall a little short or just sound repetitive, with Future not really straying too far away from his traditional flow patterns. Overall, for being a surprise tape, I'm feeling a good 5 on this thing. So that's my review of the Future tape, Beastmode 2, and I'll be looking forward to the next one. Let me know what you think. Until then, peace.